She left to reconnect with her ex. I sold the house, disappeared, and built a life without her. You know how they say you don't really see the cracks in something until the light hits it just right? That's how it was with Claire. From the outside, we looked solid, engaged, new homeowners, joint Netflix account and all. Smiling in pictures, finishing each other's texts. People used to say, you guys are goals. Funny how much you can hide with a good filter and the right caption. But let me back up a bit. We met at a friend's New Year's party 4 years ago. I remember because she showed up late, soaking wet from the rain, carrying a bottle of wine that shattered in the driveway. She laughed like it didn't bother her, like she was used to messes. I liked that. I liked her, the kind of sharp-eyed woman who could make sarcasm sound sweet. We spent the rest of the night sitting on a staircase, talking about everything from old cartoons to what kind of dog we'd get if we ever grew up. The next morning, I called my mom and told her I might have met someone important. The relationship didn't just take off. It sort of settled in. Like it already belonged. She moved in after 8 months, left a toothbrush the second week she started staying over. That's how Claire was fast and familiar. And I let her be. We made decisions together, split bills, picked out throw pillows like we were planning for forever. 2 years in, I proposed. Nothing grand. Just me, her, and a rented cabin in the woods. I had a whole speech planned but forgot every word the second I saw her crying. Not big sobs, just that trembling smile and the quiet, "You're sure?" that told me she wasn't expecting it. I should have listened closer to that question. We bought the house 6 months later. A small 2-bedroom on a tree-lined street just outside of Asheville. It had a creaky porch swing and those kinds of windows that let morning light in like it's trying to kiss you awake. We painted the kitchen ourselves. Argued over cabinet handles. Laughed until we cried when we discovered the previous owner's pet ferret had left something mummified in the vent. It felt like we were writing our first chapter. But somewhere in the middle of all that newness, things shifted. At first, it was little things. Claire getting quiet during dinner. Saying she was tired when I tried to talk about wedding plans. Her phone lighting up with a name I didn't recognize, but she'd flip it face down so fast you'd think it was radioactive. I didn't want to be that guy, you know? The paranoid one. So I didn't ask. Then came the night she brought it up. I remember it down to the flicker of the candle on our coffee table. "I think we need to take a break," she said, her voice steady like she'd practiced it. I blinked. Thought maybe I misheard her. "A break?" I repeated. She nodded. "Just time. Space. I need to figure some stuff out before we move forward." I laughed. Not because it was funny. More like a defense mechanism. Figure what out? We just put a down payment on a house. That's not exactly light and casual. She didn't flinch. "It's not about you. It's me." And there it was. The line. The one people always use when they don't have the guts to tell you the truth. I pushed. "Claire, are you seeing someone?" She hesitated. Just long enough to confirm what she wouldn't say. "Not exactly," she said finally. I've been talking to Evan again." Evan. Her ex. The one who'd ghosted her twice. The same guy she once called a lesson in why red flags matter. I couldn't believe it. "So you want a break?" "To explore him. Just to see," she said, like this was some kind of open house tour. "I need closure." I felt my face go numb. Like my blood had turned to static. She kept talking, saying things like, "No pressure," and "It doesn't mean I don't love you," and I just sat there, staring at a woman I suddenly didn't recognize. She wanted a break. And I wanted to disappear. I didn't scream. Didn't throw anything. Just nodded slowly, stood up, and went into the bedroom. I packed an overnight bag, bare essentials, toothbrush, change of clothes, laptop, and left. That night, I slept in my car in the driveway. Not because I had nowhere else to go. Because I wanted to see if she'd come out, if she'd look for me. She didn't. 2 days later, she texted. "Hope you're okay. Let me know when you're ready to talk." I didn't respond. Instead, I reached out to a realtor friend of mine, Marcus. Asked him how fast he thought we could move the house. He hesitated, asked if I was serious. I said dead serious. Claire still had no idea. She thought I was just giving her the space she wanted. And maybe I was. I just didn't tell her that once I stepped out, I wasn't planning on stepping back in. The sale moved fast. Real estate's wild like that sometimes. We'd only been in the house for 9 months, but the market was hot and the place had charm. Marcus pulled strings, got a cash buyer, and 2 weeks later, the house was sold. Claire found out the day she came back to pack a suitcase and realized her keys didn't work anymore. She called. 27 times. I watched the screen light up from my motel room an hour outside the city. The last voicemail she left was the one that stuck with me. "You said you loved me," she said. Her voice was small. You didn't even give me a chance. But here's the thing. She had a chance. Dozens of them. And she used them to wander back towards someone who'd already shown her his worth. So I vanished. Left my job. Cashed out what I could. Bought a used pickup and drove west. No note. No forwarding address. Just gone. I don't know if this makes me the bad guy. Honestly? Maybe. But at some point, you stop trying to be understood and start trying to survive. And this was my survival. You'd think disappearing would feel dramatic. Like something out of a movie where the hero throws his phone out the window and drives into the sunset with a guitar in the back seat and a tear rolling down his cheek. Yeah, no. For me, it felt more like standing in line at a gas station in Kansas, watching a hot dog spin slowly on a roller and wondering if I should splurge on the one with actual grill marks. That was my grand escape, me, a half-empty Red Bull, and a dashboard covered in receipts I'd stopped caring about. The day after I left Asheville, I hit I-40 and just drove. No plan. No destination. Just this nagging need to put distance between myself and anything that reminded me of Claire. Every tree, every grocery store, every sidewalk cafe, I swear they all whispered her name. It's weird, the stuff that sticks with you. Like how I'd catch myself reaching for the AUX cord to play one of her playlists. Or pulling over to take a picture of a sunset because she used to say, capture the good light when you see it. Took me a full week before I realized I wasn't running from her. I was running from the version of me that believed in her. That guy? He needed to go. I ended up in Flagstaff, Arizona. Don't ask me why. Maybe because it had the kind of anonymity I craved, quiet, a little dusty, the kind of place where no one cared who you were or why your eyes looked like they hadn't slept in weeks. I checked into a long-stay motel next to a laundromat and a taco place with a sign that just said food. Paid 2 weeks in cash. The guy at the front desk didn't ask questions. Didn't even blink when I said my name was Jason. It wasn't, but I was trying names on like old jackets to see what fit. The room was small. Brown carpet. Lamp with no bulb. A fridge that groaned like it was in pain every time it kicked on. But it was mine. And for the first time in months, no one expected anything from me. I spent the first few days in bed. Not sleeping, just existing. I'd stare at the ceiling fan for hours, letting the hum drown out the memories. I thought a lot about what I'd say to Claire if I saw her again. How I'd explain why I didn't fight for us. But every version of that conversation ended with me saying something cold like, you left first. Because she did. Not physically. But in her heart? Yeah. She was gone before I ever packed that bag. About a week in, I walked into a bar called the Blue Cactus. It was Tuesday, which meant it was almost empty except for a guy with a face like melted leather nursing a beer in the corner and a bartender who looked too kind to be in a place like that. Her name was Lily. Said she was working nights to pay for vet school, which somehow made me trust her more. She didn't ask about the bags under my eyes or why I drank my beer like I was hoping it would erase something. Just slid me another and said, you've got the look of someone who hasn't exhaled in a while. She wasn't wrong. Lily became the first real human contact I had in weeks. She'd ask simple questions, how I liked my eggs, if I'd read any good books, what music I played when no one else was around. It was the kind of casual connection that didn't ask for anything, and man, did I need that. We never flirted. Never crossed lines. But every night I'd walk in and see her wiping down the bar, I felt a little more like I belonged somewhere. She was a reminder that not every woman plays games. That some just show up, plain and kind and real. Money was tight. I wasn't broke, not yet, but I knew the clock was ticking. I'd gotten a decent chunk from the house sale, Claire never saw a dime, and yeah, I still think that was fair. She wanted a break, not a buyout. But still, it wasn't endless. So I found work. Day labor stuff at first. Then a gig at a local landscaping company run by a guy named Tom who said, you're quiet. That's good. Too many folks talk themselves out of a job. I was fine with dirt under my nails. Sweat felt honest. And at the end of the day, my muscles ached in ways my heart didn't. Every evening, I'd hit the same taco joint. Same order. Same booth. And little by little, something started growing in me again. Not quite peace, not yet. But stillness. That was new. One night, maybe 3 weeks in, I was sitting at the bar at the Blue Cactus when my phone lit up. Blocked number. I shouldn't have answered. But I did. Hey, came the voice. Hers. It was soft, unsure, like she didn't know if I'd hang up. I don't know where you are. But I miss you. I didn't say anything. She kept going. Said Evan was a mistake, that she'd been confused, that she'd thought she needed clarity but ended up realizing what she had with me was the real thing. I didn't mean to lose you, she said. That's the thing though. You don't lose people. You choose to let them go, piece by piece, choice by choice, and she'd made hers. Still, I listened, because some part of me, deep down, still remembered what her laugh felt like against my chest. Then I said, Claire, I hope you find what you're looking for. And I ended the call. No yelling, no closure speech, just silence. After that, I blocked the number, tossed the phone in a trash can outside the bar, bought a flip phone from a drugstore and gave the number to no one but work. It wasn't about being unreachable, it was about not being found. I'd love to tell you I was fine after that, that I felt powerful like some avenging ghost. But the truth? I felt hollow. Betrayal doesn't scream. It echoes. You hear it in the quietest moments. Brushing your teeth, folding your socks, waking up and forgetting for one blissful second that she's gone, then remembering like a punch to the ribs. But there's something beautiful about starting over. Even when it's messy. Especially when it's messy. Because rock bottom? It's got a solid foundation. By the end of that first month, I'd rented a small one-bedroom above a pawn shop. Furnished it with whatever I could find second-hand. A couch with a tear in the side. A mattress that squeaked if you looked at it too hard. But it was mine. Every piece of it. And maybe, just maybe, I was starting to be mine again too. You ever try putting something back together without knowing what the original looked like? That's what rebuilding felt like after Claire. I didn't want the old version of me, the guy who mistook attention for affection, who thought love meant staying even when someone was halfway out the door. No, I needed to build something new. But I'll be honest with you. I had no blueprint. Just bruises and a pile of unspoken truths. The first real shift came on a Sunday. I remember because it was the first day I didn't check the time and didn't care. I woke up late, sunlight cutting a clean line across the wall, and realized I hadn't dreamt about her. That hadn't happened since I left Asheville. That's the thing people don't tell you about healing, it's boring. It's routine. It's brushing your teeth every morning even though you don't feel like a person worth minty breath. It's eating dinner at the same table every night, even when there's no one across from you. It's choosing to stay when running sounds romantic. But little by little, boring turns into peace. The landscaping job turned out to be the best thing for me. Tom, the guy who hired me, wasn't exactly warm and fuzzy, but he had this way of talking in wisdom-shaped grunts. Some'll do more for your soul than a therapist, he said one morning while we trimmed hedges outside a retirement home. I think he meant well. I liked the work. There was something honest about hauling mulch, shaping shrubs, laying bricks that would stay put for decades. Unlike people. Unlike promises. You do the work and you see the result. It didn't lie to you. Some days I'd come home so sore I couldn't lift my arms to change my shirt. But pain like that? It made sense. It earned its place. Lily, the bartender, started giving me free coffee in the mornings. Only until you smile like a human, she'd say. She never pried. Never asked what I'd done before Flagstaff or who broke me into so many quiet pieces. Just served up kindness in paper cups and let me be. I asked her once why she was always so kind to strangers. She shrugged. I figure nobody shows up here looking for judgment. They just want to be left alone until they don't. It stuck with me. That idea that people only wanted space until the ache got too loud. One night, I came home and found a stray dog curled up in front of my apartment door. Scrappy little thing, ribs showing, formatted like a badwig. Looked like he'd lost a fight to a raccoon and a weed whacker. I opened the door and expected him to bolt. Instead, he walked right in. Like he owned the place. I named him Rusty. Because, honestly, we were both kind of worn-out, beat-up versions of what we used to be. He never left. I started writing again. Not for anyone. Just for me. Mornings before work, evenings when the silence felt a little too sharp. Pages and pages of thoughts I'd never said out loud. Letters I'd never send. Versions of myself I didn't recognize until I saw them in ink. I wrote about the first time Claire touched my face like it meant something. I wrote about the night I sat in our empty kitchen wondering if I'd ever trust someone again. I wrote about my mother. My father. The things I never said growing up. The guilt of staying silent when I should have stood up for myself. Writing became my confessional. And in it I found pieces of myself I didn't know were still intact. One morning about 3 months after disappearing, I got a letter. Not a call. Not a text. A letter. On real paper. It was from Claire. I recognized the handwriting before I even opened it. She used to write little notes and leave them on the fridge, things like "Don't forget milk" or "You looked cute sleeping." But this one wasn't a grocery reminder. She wrote that she was sorry. That Evan wasn't what she thought. That going back to him was like visiting a childhood home and realizing it was smaller, colder, and more broken than she remembered. She said she understood if I never spoke to her again, but that she wanted me to know she didn't forget me. Couldn't. She wrote, "You were the best thing I ever had. And I treated you like a maybe when you were already all in." I sat with that letter for a long time. Not because it changed anything. It didn't. But because it proved I hadn't imagined it. The love. The betrayal. It was all real. And sometimes, the most painful thing is realizing you weren't crazy, you were just alone in it. I didn't write back. Not out of anger. Just peace. Sometimes the best closure is no door at all. By month 4, I'd saved enough to trade the squeaky mattress for a real bed. Found a second-hand frame and a mattress that didn't sag in the middle like it had given up on dreams. I painted the walls a warm gray. Bought a lamp that dimmed. Put up a print of a forest trail, not because I liked hiking, but because it looked like a place I could breathe. Rusty claimed the couch. I let him. The apartment wasn't much. But it felt like mine. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't building a life for us. I was building one for me. Then came the knock on my door. It was a Thursday. I was halfway through folding laundry, Rusty asleep under the table. The knock wasn't loud. Just steady. Familiar. I froze. I don't know why, but every muscle in me tightened like I'd been caught doing something wrong. I opened it slowly. It wasn't Claire. It was Lily. She looked awkward. Said she was off early and someone at the bar mentioned I lived above the pawn shop. She had 2 coffees in hand and a look that said she wasn't sure if this was a mistake. "I figured you might want company," she said. "Or just a decent latte." I let her in. Not because I was ready, but because I didn't want to be alone in the silence anymore. You'd think the hard part is the heartbreak, the leaving, the losing, the moment the house key doesn't turn in the lock anymore. But I'll tell you what no one talks about, the fear of good things after the bad. When something soft shows up after the storm, it feels like a trap. Like the universe is just setting you up for the next punch. That's what it was like when Lily stepped into my apartment that night. 2 lattes in hand, a nervous smile on her face, and not a single expectation in her eyes. She just sat there on the couch like we'd done this 100 times. Rusty sniffed her, made a noise that sounded like approval, then curled back into his spot. That dog was a better judge of character than I ever was. We didn't talk about anything deep that night. Just music, weird customers at the bar, and the sad state of vending machine snacks in the laundromat downstairs. But it was nice. And for someone who'd forgotten what nice felt like, it was terrifying. The next morning, I found a note on my counter in Lily's handwriting. "Thanks for the coffee company. Don't overthink it. Don't overthink it." That's like telling someone not to breathe underwater. Of course I overthought it. I replayed everything, how close we sat, how she laughed, whether I'd imagined the way her foot accidentally touched mine and lingered for just a beat too long. But I didn't text her. Not because I didn't want to. Because I wasn't sure I could trust myself to want something without wrecking it. Instead, I kept moving. Mornings were for work. Evenings for tacos and writing. Rusty and I started going for longer walks, exploring parts of town I hadn't noticed before, little bookshops, record stores, diners with cracked leather booths and pies that tasted like someone's grandmother made them by hand. I didn't realize how much of life I'd missed while trying to be Claire's future. Now, I was finally living in the present. But the past doesn't just go away. It lingers. Shows up in strange ways. Like the email I got from my old best friend Adam. We hadn't spoken since before the engagement. He was supposed to be my best man. We'd grown up on the same cul-de-sac, made blanket forts in his basement, crashed our bikes into the same ditch in middle school. He wrote, "Hey man, I don't know what happened. Claire didn't say much, just that you left. She said she messed up. If you ever want to talk, I'm still here." I stared at that message for 20 minutes before closing the tab. I wasn't ready to go back. Not yet. Maybe not ever. 2 weeks after the coffee night, Lily showed up again. No text. No warning. Just a knock and a box of donuts. "Peace offering," she said. I might have overstepped. I let her in. This time we talked more. She asked questions. The kind that slid under your skin. What did it feel like? Leaving? I told her the truth. Like freedom I didn't want. That made her pause. She got it, I think. More than she let on. She told me about her ex. A guy who liked control more than company. The kind of man who measured love in guilt trips and silence. We were both a little cracked, I guess. But that night, the cracks didn't feel so sharp. She didn't stay over. Not then. Not for a while. But she became a regular in my life. Late night walks. Random texts about songs she thought I'd like. Rusty would wag his tail when he heard her car pull up, like he'd decided she was part of our tiny pack. And me? I was terrified. Not of Lily, but of hope, because that's what she was. A soft, slow kind of hope. The kind that doesn't ask for anything, but offers everything. One night, after a particularly quiet dinner, she looked at me across the table and said, "You know you don't have to apologize for what happened, right?" I hadn't said a word about Claire. Not directly, but I guess it lingered in the way I hesitated when Lily touched my hand. The way I sometimes stared at my plate like I was bracing for someone to take it away. "You don't have to prove you're over it," she added. "Just don't lie to yourself about where you are." I looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time since I left, I let the guard down just a little. "I'm scared," I admitted. She nodded. "Good. Means you're not numb anymore." That night she stayed. Not in the way Claire used to stay, like she owned the place, like she was claiming space. Lily stayed like she was visiting something sacred. Careful, gentle, no expectations, just presence. We didn't talk much. Didn't need to. She curled up on the couch with Rusty, her hand brushing mine every so often, and we watched some old black and white movie that neither of us remembered the name of. I fell asleep that night not in fear, but in peace. And let me tell you, peace is louder than people think. Weeks passed, and then came the call. Not from Claire, from my mother. I didn't recognize the number, but the second I heard her voice, I knew. "Oh, honey," she said, like I just walked in from school instead of vanishing off the face of the earth. "We heard what happened. I was so worried." That's the thing. She hadn't called once in months. Not after the engagement broke. Not after the house sold. Not even a text. But now, somehow, they knew where I was. I asked how she got my number. "Claire gave it to us," she said, like it was nothing. I felt the temperature in the room drop 10 degrees. "She said you'd probably block her. That maybe we could reach you instead." So now they were outsourcing the guilt. I ended the call before she could finish. Blocked the number. Went outside and stood in the cold, letting the night air fill my lungs like ice water. Lily found me there 15 minutes later. She didn't ask what happened. Just put a coat around my shoulders and stood beside me until the ache softened. You think you're done with a person until they use other people to reach you. But that night I realized something important. They could find my number, but they'd never find me again. You ever feel your gut clench before your brain even catches up? Like your instincts see something coming long before the logic kicks in? That's what happened the morning I opened my email and saw Claire's name in the inbox. She'd sent a message. Short. Titled, "Can we talk? Just once. Just once." Like that makes it harmless. Like saying just one drink when you're 6 months sober. I stared at it for a while. Didn't click. Didn't delete. Just stared. Because no matter how far you run, seeing their name still feels like stepping on glass barefoot. And the thing is, my life was better now. Not perfect. Not tied up in a neat little bow. But mine. I had Rusty. I had a job that didn't make me hate the sunrise. And I had Lily. Kind and steady as ever. Letting me move at my own pace. Never once asking me to speed up. But healing is a quiet rhythm. And an old name, a single message, can throw the whole song off beat. I didn't reply, but I couldn't shake the feeling. Later that day, I told Lily about it. We were walking Rusty through a trail just outside town. Sun low, air crisp, the kind of evening that usually made me feel lucky to be alive. She didn't flinch when I said Claire had emailed me. Didn't get jealous or weird. Just raised an eyebrow and said, "And?" I shrugged. I didn't respond. She nodded like that made sense. "But you're thinking about it." That's what I liked about Lily. No drama. Just facts. "I guess I'm wondering what she even wants now," I admitted. She got what she asked for. Space. Closure. All of it. "Maybe she wants to be forgiven," Lily said. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it stung. "Forgiveness is too expensive," I said. Lily looked at me sideways. "No, it's not. It's just not always for sale." 2 days later, I cracked. Opened the email. It was vague. polite, almost businesslike. I know I don't deserve a response, but I heard about your dog. Rusty, right? Lily posted a photo. He looks happy. You look peaceful. That makes me glad, honestly. I won't take up your time. I needed to say I'm sorry. I was selfish. I thought I needed clarity, but I was just running from my own mess. You didn't deserve to be caught in it. Then the last line. If you ever need anything, I mean it. I owe you that. And there it was. The seed. If you ever need anything. It wasn't an ask. Not yet. But I've known Claire long enough to recognize the setup. I didn't reply, but now the door was cracked. And once the door cracks, the wind finds a way in. The next week was weird. Not bad. Not dramatic. Just off. I catch myself watching Lily more carefully. Second-guessing my own happiness. Like maybe I didn't earn it yet. Like it was a borrowed coat I wasn't sure I was allowed to keep. She noticed. Of course she did. You're quieter, she said one night as we folded laundry on the floor, Rusty snoring nearby. I shrugged. Just tired, I guess. She didn't push. Just passed me a sock that didn't have a match and said, they're never really tired, you know? The ones who leave a mess and then offer help when it's convenient. That's all she said. But I knew what she meant. 3 nights later, another message. Sorry to reach out again. I wouldn't unless it mattered. My brother's in trouble. Legal stuff. I remembered you used to know someone, your friend Adam, the lawyer? If you still talk to him, could you pass along his info? I don't know who else to ask. And there it was. The favor. Wrapped in guilt. Delivered with a ribbon of false humility. I sat with that one for a long time. I didn't want to help her. But Adam? He was a good guy. I hadn't talked to him in over a year. But I still had his number. Claire didn't. And I doubted she remembered how to reach him without me. I called him. Told him everything. Not just the request. The whole story. The engagement. The break. The disappearing act. The life I'd built in the silence. He didn't say much. Just listened. And when I was done, he whistled low. Man, he said. That's a hell of a journey. Yeah. He paused. Do you want me to help her? That hit me harder than I expected. Because I didn't know. I didn't care about her brother. But I cared about doing the right thing. And sometimes those two things don't match. I want to be done with her, I said quietly. He nodded. Then let me handle it. I'll call her. Tell her we spoke. You don't have to be in the middle. So that's what we did. Clean. Cordial. Distant. And just like that, the wind stopped blowing through the cracked door. I told Lily about it over dinner. She just nodded, twirling her pasta with slow grace. Did it help? She asked. Yeah, I said. More than I thought. She looked at me then. Not like a woman waiting for an apology or praise, but like someone who'd seen the whole storm and was still standing beside me. You're doing better than you think, she said. You just don't know what that looks like yet. The thing is, when you go through betrayal, you think healing is some mountaintop moment. Like one day you'll wake up with no scars and no memories, and you'll just be okay. But that's not it. Healing is eating dinner without checking your phone. It's letting someone new sit in the quiet with you without flinching. It's helping someone who once broke your heart. Not because they deserve it, but because you do. It's walking your dog down a road you once thought you'd die on, and realizing, hey, the view ain't bad from here. You ever have one of those quiet weeks where everything's fine? I don't mean exciting. I mean calm, uneventful. The kind of week where you fold laundry on time, Rusty doesn't chew your shoes, and nobody from your past sends an emotionally manipulative message? That was the week I thought, maybe I've made it. Felt like I'd finally outrun the echo of who I used to be. Lily and I had settled into something steady, comfortable but not dull. She kept bartending part-time, took online classes for animal nutrition. I kept landscaping, waking early, working hard, writing at night. And we were good. I mean really good. The kind of good that doesn't need big gestures or dramatic declarations. Just her humming while she made coffee. Me watching her from the couch, thinking I could get old like this. Then came the knock. It was a Saturday. Mid-morning. Sun pouring in through the blinds, Rusty asleep belly up in the patch of light by the door. I was on the floor fixing a wobbly table leg, humming some half-remembered tune. The knock came once. Steady. Firm. Not delivery. Not a neighbor. I opened the door and saw a man in his 50s, suit too formal for our side of town, shoes too polished to be casual. Jason? He asked, using the name I hadn't gone by since I left Asheville. My stomach did a slow, heavy roll. You got the wrong guy, I said, stepping back. He didn't leave. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a photo. It was me, standing outside the blue cactus with Lily, mid-laugh, holding Rusty's leash. You disappeared, he said quietly. But not well enough. Turns out Claire's family had hired a private investigator. Not right after I left. Not after the house sold. Not even after she'd emailed me. But recently. Why? Because of a will. Her grandfather had passed away. The one who always liked me. The one who used to joke at family dinners that I was the only man in the room with any sense. Apparently, before he died, he left a clause in his will: the engagement between Claire and my full legal name must be officially resolved before she may claim her portion of the inheritance. Legal terms. Clean break. Documentation. It wasn't about romance. It was about money. They needed me to sign something. Something that said, yes, we are no longer engaged. Something formal. Official. Legal. You'd think disappearing would be enough. But apparently the world needs ink. The investigator wasn't rude. Just matter of fact. She doesn't want to bother you, he said, which made me laugh out loud. She just needs the paperwork finalized. No court. No drama. Just a signature. He handed me a thick envelope, his card, and said, if you choose not to sign, that's your right. But I'm required to inform you of the request. Then he left. Just like that. Like he hadn't just reached into my peaceful little life and stirred the water. Lily came home later that afternoon. I told her everything. No sugarcoating. She listened, chewing her bottom lip like she does when she's thinking hard. Then she said, you okay? I nodded. Weirdly, yeah. You gonna sign it? I think I am. She leaned against the counter. Then do it. I raised an eyebrow. You're not worried? That she'll try something? Lily shrugged. She already did. And you already left. She was right. That night, I sat at the kitchen table, the packet spread out like a map of the past. There was something so clinical about it. A life reduced to lines and boxes and dotted lines. I had to check a box next to. I acknowledged the engagement was ended voluntarily by mutual consent. I almost laughed. Nothing about that ending was mutual. But I wasn't signing it for accuracy. I was signing it for freedom. I read it twice, maybe 3 times. Then I picked up the pen and signed my name like I was closing a door. Rusty barked softly like he knew something had shifted. I mailed it the next day. Certified, return receipt requested. And then I waited. Nothing happened for a week. Then I got an email. Not from Claire. From her lawyer. Thank you for your cooperation. The matter is now resolved. That was it. No, hope you're well. No, thanks for not being a jerk. Just legal silence. Which honestly was the nicest thing Claire had ever given me. After that I felt lighter. Not in some magical movie-ending way. But in a real, tangible way, like my shoulders didn't sit so close to my ears anymore. Like I could look at Lily without wondering if I was still someone else's ghost. I didn't tell Adam. Didn't tell my old friends. Didn't even write about it in my journal until a week later. Because for once I wasn't documenting pain. I was living past it. A few nights later, Lily made dinner, nothing fancy, just stir-fry and cold beer. We ate on the balcony, feet up on the rail, Rusty curled at our feet. She looked over at me and said, you're breathing different. I smiled. Yeah. Feels like the air's finally mine. We sat there for a long time. No phones. No noise. Just the sound of healing not making a sound at all. There's a difference between not drowning and actually swimming. You learn that slowly, like sunlight creeping across a cold room. After I signed those papers and mailed them off, I expected to feel triumphant. Maybe even smug. Like I'd won. But I didn't feel victorious. I just felt done. And done, it turns out, is an underrated emotion. Not dramatic, not flashy. Just steady. Just enough. The end of a loop playing in your head for too long. And once I was done, something strange happened. I started living like someone who wasn't bracing for another punch. The first real sign of change? I said yes to things. Simple things. Lily asked if I wanted to go with her to the animal shelter one Saturday to help walk the dogs and clean some kennels. I could have made an excuse. Could have said I needed rest or that I had laundry or that the weather looked iffy. But I didn't. I said yes. And that Saturday morning, I found myself holding a leash attached to a floppy-eared hound named Jerry who smelled like wet carpet and had zero regard for personal space. I laughed more in 2 hours than I had in the last 2 years. After, Lily and I got tacos from a truck and ate on the tailgate of her car. She told me about a dog she once fostered that chewed through her drywall. I told her about the time Claire's cat peed in my work shoes and she blamed me for leaving them out. We laughed. A real kind of laugh. The kind that comes from the lungs, not just the mouth. It was the first time I realized I wasn't just recovering, I was redefining. I started waking up before my alarm. Started running with Rusty in the mornings, just a mile at first, then 2. My knees hated me, but my head was clearer. I'd come home with sweat on my back and a quiet in my chest that felt earned. I bought a second-hand camera. Started taking pictures on walks. Trees. Shadows. A bird mid-flight. It didn't matter if they were good. They were mine. Lily encouraged it. Said I saw things in ways other people didn't. She'd flip through the prints at the kitchen table, smiling, her fingertips gentle on the glossy paper. "You've got a way of finding quiet in the chaos," she said once. I didn't know how to respond. So I kissed her. And she kissed me back like it wasn't the first kiss we'd shared, but the first one we both meant. We didn't move fast. We didn't need to. There were no Instagram posts. No pet names. No promises whispered at 2 a.m. Just 2 people learning how to love again without rushing it. Without expecting the other to fix what someone else broke. Lily never asked me for more than I could give. And because of that, I wanted to give her everything. One night, while we were brushing our teeth, she looked at me in the mirror and said, "Do you still think about her?" There was no bitterness in her voice. Just curiosity. I didn't lie. Yeah. Not in a missing way. More like remembering a storm you once got caught in. Wet clothes, cold skin, the smell of rain. It stays with you even after the sun comes back. She nodded. Good. Because that's real. That's how I knew I was with the right person. The kind who doesn't need to be the only chapter, just the one that finally makes the story make sense. We took a weekend trip. Nothing wild. Just a little cabin north of Sedona. 2 nights, no phone service, a stack of books and a bottle of wine we didn't finish. It rained the first night. Hard. We sat on the porch, listening to it drum on the roof, our feet propped up, Rusty curled between us. "You ever think about going back?" she asked. I shook my head. Not really. No curiosity? Closure. I already got closure, I said. They just weren't in the room when it happened. When we got home, I printed one of the photos from the trip. A crooked shot of Lily, standing in the doorway, rain falling behind her, her smile crooked and bright like a secret you want to tell the world. I framed it. Put it on the shelf next to a candle and an old camera lens I found at a thrift shop. Claire never had a photo there. Not because I didn't love her, but because I never had a moment with her that felt like it belonged on display. That's the difference. Some people make memories. Others make marks. Lily was the first person who did both. A few weeks later, I got a letter. Not from Claire. From her grandfather's lawyer. Just a formal update informing me that the clause had been executed, the engagement dissolved, and that Claire had claimed her inheritance. At the bottom, scrawled in pen, was a note. "He always liked you. Just so you know." It was signed. Marjorie, legal assistant, and the one who always brought him cookies. I folded the letter and tucked it away in a drawer. Not because I needed it, but because it felt like the final period at the end of a sentence I'd been writing for years. That night, Lily made spaghetti and accidentally burned the garlic bread. She cursed under her breath, waved the smoke away, and looked at me sheepishly. "We should have just ordered pizza." I grinned. "This is better." She raised an eyebrow. "Charcoal toast is better?" "No," I said, pulling her close, "but standing here with you is." And that was the truth. Because surviving is doing what you have to. But living is burning the bread and laughing anyway. There's this moment, if you're lucky, where the life you're living finally starts to feel like it fits. Not perfectly. Not like a glove or some fairy tale ending. But like a worn-in jacket. Soft at the elbows. Smells like your dog. Has a tear or two, but it's yours. That was life now. Me, Lily, and Rusty in a space that used to feel temporary but had started to hum with permanence. You'd walk in and smell brewed coffee and old books. Hear Lily singing off-key to whatever was playing on the radio. Feel the kind of peace that doesn't demand attention. It just sits quietly in the room with you. And for once, I wasn't waiting for it to fall apart. I was building it. I didn't realize how much I'd changed until Tom, my boss at the landscaping company, offered me a lead position. He handed me a clipboard and said, "You've been showing up. Can't say that about most these days. I looked down at the schedule, my name scribbled at the top in his squint-of-death handwriting, and realized I hadn't missed a single day since I started. Not because I needed the money, because I wanted the work. That was new. He gave me a small raise, told me I'd be managing a few new hires, and grunted something that might have been, "Don't screw it up." I didn't smile, just nodded. "I won't." And I meant it. Lily surprised me that night with a little homemade banner that said "Boss Man" in glitter pen. She made Rusty wear a tiny paper tie. He hated it. We took pictures anyway. That's the thing about Lily. She celebrated quiet victories. The kind that don't make headlines but mean everything to the person living them. Over dinner. Real garlic bread this time. She looked at me and said, "You've been growing." I smirked. "Am I getting taller?" She rolled her eyes. "No, you're getting here. You're actually here now." She tapped the side of her head, then her chest. "You used to live like you were just renting space in your own life. Now it feels like you bought the place." She was right. I wasn't surviving anymore. I was inhabiting. It was around that time we started talking about moving. Not far. Just something with more room. A small yard. A second bedroom in case Lily wanted to foster animals or, just have a place to dump laundry that wasn't the couch. We weren't rushing. Just dreaming. That's what people don't talk about after betrayal. You stop dreaming for a while. You become hyper-practical. Safe. You think day to day, not year to year. But Lily made me feel like the future wasn't something to fear. It was something we could build one weekend at a time. One Saturday, we drove by a house on the edge of town. Nothing fancy. One story. Faded green shutters. A front porch that leaned slightly, like it was tired but still showing up. Lily stopped the car and said, "That one." I raised an eyebrow. "It's got character." She smiled. "So do we." We didn't buy it, not yet. But we toured it. Walked through rooms that smelled like old carpet and possibility. Talked about where the bookshelves would go. Where Rusty's bed would be. And in that creaky hallway, I looked at Lily and thought, I could stay here forever. Not in the house. In this messy, hopeful, forgiving thing we'd built. About a week later, I got another email. No subject line. Just, "I'm glad you're okay. Really. Take care of her." No name, but I didn't need one. It was Claire. And for the first time, I didn't feel a jolt of anything. No anger. No sadness. No nostalgia. Just nothing. And you know what? Nothing felt like freedom. I didn't reply. Didn't delete it either. Just let it sit there. Like a closed door I no longer needed to check. Lily's birthday rolled around, and I baked a cake. From scratch. Collapsed a little in the middle, and I used too much frosting trying to cover the dip, but she loved it. Said it was the best cake she'd ever had. I told her she needed to raise her standards. She kissed me with flour on her nose and said, "Too late." We sat on the kitchen floor, eating messy slices with our hands, laughing like kids. Rusty licked the frosting off a plate and burped loudly. That night, as we got ready for bed, I looked at her brushing her teeth. Hair in a loose bun, one sock on, mascara slightly smudged from laughing. And it hit me. This was it. Not the house. Not the job. Her. The way she filled the space. The way she made even the ordinary feel earned. The next day, I told her I loved her. Not over a candlelit dinner. Not during some big moment. Just while folding towels. She looked up, blinked once, and said, "Took you long enough." Love, when it's real, doesn't come with a parade. It doesn't knock down your door or send you running through airports. Sometimes, it just hands you a coffee while you're half asleep and says, "You left your shoes on the porch again." That's what life with Lily became. Not loud, not flashy, just steady. It was dishes in the sink, groceries forgotten in the car, arguments about whether the dog could sleep on the bed he won. It was life. The kind I used to watch other people have and wonder what it felt like. Now I knew. A few months after I told her I loved her, we moved. Not into that faded greenhouse with the leaning porch. That one had black mold and wiring so old it practically hummed in Morse code. But we found another place, a modest 2-bedroom with a fenced backyard and a front door that stuck just enough to feel secure. The first night in the new place, we didn't even unpack. We sat on the living room floor with takeout, a bottle of cheap wine, and Rusty snoring between us. I looked around at the boxes and the bare walls and said, "Feels like a restart." Lily smiled. "Nope. Feels like chapter 2. She was right. That same week, I got a call from Tom. "Thinking of selling the business," he said. I almost dropped my fork. "Seriously?" "Yeah. Getting too old to care about grass," he grunted. I waited. Then came the question. "You ever think about buying in?" I didn't answer right away. Because I had. I just never thought I was allowed to. See, back when I was with Claire, when we were in that house with the freshly painted kitchen, I used to think the only way to have a future was to attach myself to someone else's. Her plan. Her timeline. Her dreams. Now someone was offering me the chance to build mine. Tom laid it out simple. Small buy-in, slow transition, full ownership over time. No tricks. No catch. Just trust. I told him I'd talk to Lily and call him back. When I told her, she didn't hesitate. "You should do it," she said. "Don't you want to think it through?" I asked. "I have," she said. "Every time I see you come home with dirt under your nails and that tired little smile, I know this isn't just a job for you. It's your thing." She paused. "And maybe it's time you stop living like someone who needs permission to succeed." 2 months later, I signed the papers. Tom and I shook hands behind the work truck like it was no big deal, even though my palms were sweating and my stomach felt like it had swallowed a lawnmower. He handed me a set of keys and said, "It's your circus now." And just like that, I wasn't just rebuilding a life, I was building a legacy. Business didn't skyrocket, but it stayed steady. I brought in a few new contracts, hired a second crew, and started using the office for more than just dust collection. One afternoon, I stood in the doorway and looked at the name on the glass. Sal Landscaping and Outdoor Services. Not flashy, but it was mine. Sal, short for Salvador. The name Claire rarely said without a sigh. The name I used to want to change because I thought it didn't fit. Now, I couldn't imagine going by anything else. Lily made the house a home faster than I thought possible. She filled it with plants that only half survived and rugs that never matched but somehow worked. She found the one thrift store in town that always had candles, and our place constantly smelled like cedar or cinnamon or whatever else she thought smelled like a fresh start. We didn't get engaged. Not yet. But we talked about it. One night, lying in bed, she said, "You know, we're kind of married already." I looked over. "Oh yeah?" She nodded. Joint bank account. Shared dog. Mutual hatred of folding fitted sheets. I laughed. Guess we're stuck. And I liked the idea of being stuck with her. It wasn't perfect. There were fights. Some dumb, some deep. She once accidentally donated one of my old journals during a closet purge, and I didn't talk to her for a day. I forgot her friend's birthday and made us late to the dinner party. She didn't talk to me for a day. But here's the thing about being with someone solid. You don't fear the cracks. Because you know they won't break you. We always found our way back. Every single time. And I never once looked at the door and wondered if I'd have to use it. One morning, I got a letter in the mail. A plain white envelope. No return address. Inside, a photo. Of me. Back in Asheville. Standing on the porch of the house Claire and I bought. I was painting the trim, shirtless in the sun, sweat on my brow, a half smile like I still believed in things I couldn't see coming. No note. Just the picture. I showed it to Lily. She studied it for a long time. Then handed it back and said, "You look younger there. But not happier." She was right. That smile wasn't joy. It was hope. And hope, when it's all you've got, will disguise itself as peace until it runs out. I tossed the photo in the fireplace. Watched it curl into ash. And didn't feel a thing. The next morning, I went outside, knelt in the dirt, and planted a row of herbs along the fence. Basil. Mint. Rosemary. It wasn't much. But it was something alive. And this time, I wasn't planting things to impress someone. Or to prove I was worth keeping. I was planting them because they smelled good when it rained. Because I wanted to. Because sometimes the simplest act of living is proof that you made it. There's a myth we tell ourselves when we're hurting, that someday we'll wake up and arrive. Like there's some checkpoint waiting for us out there with a welcome mat and a cold drink and a neon sign that says, "Congratulations, you're healed." But real healing is quieter than that. It's the little things. It's realizing your nightmares have been replaced by dreams. It's forgetting her birthday. It's folding the same towels you used to cry into and realizing they're just towels again. It's not arriving. It's becoming. The night Lily and I got engaged, there was no grand gesture. No photographer hiding in the bushes. No "will you?" on a cake. We were sitting on the back porch. Rusty was chasing fireflies, or trying to, and Lily was grading quizzes with a red pen in one hand and a glass of wine in the other. I looked at her and thought, I never want to be anywhere else. So I just asked. No ring, no speech, just me, plain and honest. Would you want to marry me? She blinked, looked over, and set the wine glass down like she didn't want it to miss the moment. You mean now? I laughed. No, I mean in general. Like at some point, probably in nice clothes. She smiled. That soft, real kind of smile. Yeah, I'd marry you. And that was it. We sat there, newly engaged, as the sun disappeared behind the fence line. No fireworks, just peace. Exactly the way I wanted it. We didn't rush the wedding. Took our time. Made it ours. Small ceremony in a state park. Picnic tables. String lights. A taco truck. Doug, my old coworker from the landscaping crew, played guitar, badly, but it made everyone laugh. Lily wore a dress that made her look like she belonged in every life I'd ever wanted. I wore a suit that didn't itch, and shoes I'd sworn I'd never put on again unless someone died or got married. Turned out both were kind of true, because the man I used to be, the one who let himself be walked on, left behind, doubted, that guy was gone. And in his place stood a man who knew exactly what he wanted. And he was holding her hand. We didn't do vows the traditional way. We wrote letters and read them to each other when it was just the two of us, under the trees, after the guests had wandered off for cake. Mine went something like this. I used to think love was a thing you earned by being easy to keep. Quiet, convenient, uncomplicated. But then I met you. And you taught me that love isn't about fitting in someone's life. It's about building one with them. You don't need me to be perfect, just present. And I can do that. For you, I want to. She cried. So did I. And Rusty barked, probably at a squirrel. But the timing was too perfect not to laugh. Married life didn't change us much. Still had dishes in the sink. Still argued about whether the thermostat needed to be set to Arctic tundra when she slept. Still had nights where we watched 3 episodes of a show and remembered none of them. But there was something about waking up next to someone who chose you, every day again and again, that settled the bones in a way I can't explain. It made the past quieter. It made the future feel like something worth showing up for. One evening, maybe a year into the marriage, we hosted a cookout in the backyard. Friends, co-workers, neighbors, just good people, laughter, kids running in circles. Lily's famous potato salad making its 6th victorious appearance. After everyone left, I sat by the fire pit alone while Lily cleaned up inside. I looked at the chairs, the plates, the little trail of muddy paw prints Rusty left near the fence, and I felt it. Not joy, not pride, belonging, that old ghost. The version of me that got left behind at a rest stop, who stared at the back of a van as it drove off without him, who slept in a shelter wondering if anyone would ever come looking. He was still there, but he was just watching now, not running the show. And as the embers glowed red in the dark, I whispered something only I could hear. You made it. A few months after that, I found myself in Asheville again. Business trip. Short. In and out. I didn't tell Lily until the last minute. Not because I was hiding it, but because I didn't want her to worry. You okay? She asked as I packed. Yeah, I said. I just don't think I want to visit any old ghosts. She kissed me on the cheek. Then don't. Just go do your job. Come home. I'll keep the dog alive. So I went. I drove past the old neighborhood once. Didn't stop. The house was still there. Someone else's now. New paint, fresh flowers, a porch swing that actually looked used. And for a split second, I wondered if Claire still lived nearby. But I didn't care. Not in a bitter way. Just in that final page of the book kind of way. I'd moved on. And the last chapter didn't need a reread. Back home, Lily met me at the door with Rusty bouncing like he hadn't seen me in years. She handed me a beer, took my bag, and said, "You smell like airport. I missed you too." And as I sat on our couch, feet up, dog on one side, wife on the other, I realized something. I wasn't just living a good life. I was living a life worth the pain it took to build. And in that moment, I didn't need revenge. Or closure. or even an apology. I had something better. A beginning.